Hey everybody, Sid Hameed with Brickfront Properties and Construction. Today is our second video in our studio here in Bowie, Maryland. So today is August the 12th. It's Tuesday, and what we're going to talk about today is about how to get ready to go to closing, how to get ready to go to settlement, how to get ready to go to closing. So this is and it's a short segment. We're just basically giving you enough information to get an overview. A lot of the videos that I'm going to be doing, a lot of the training is going to be basically 100,000 view looking down, 50,000 view looking down, 10,000 view looking down, and then we'll break it up into the nuts and bolts that go into it at the street level, at the ground level. All right, so today we're talking about getting ready for a settlement. So now just imagine, use your imagination. Okay, you bought a house, you got it fixed up, you got it renovated, you got it in the market for sale, you've done all this marketing campaign, and it's been on the market for 28 days, and you get a sales contract. Okay, so you get this big old sales contract on the property. So one, you got to read it very carefully and go through it, especially the appraisal clauses, the financing clauses, the contingencies, the home inspections, the radon test, the termite inspection. Who's going to pay for that? Is the buyer paying for it, or is the seller paying for it? So once you get the contract, on the property, now you got to get ready to go to closing. What do? Right? So when you get the contract, the first thing is to kind of go through it really carefully, page by page, and really understand what the documents say. And then once you get to that point, and if you have an agent, work with your agent. Hopefully your agent is experienced and intelligent. If not, Expert Real Estate Advisors Group, EREAG, we've been involved in hundreds and hundreds of these transactions. And, we negotiate. We're negotiators. We try to get the best deal for our buyers and for our sellers. That's what we do at EREAG.com. So now you get the contract. You go through it carefully. You analyze it. You look at all the time frames. And then once the contract comes in, then you're going to have your home inspection. So once you get the home inspection items come in, the home inspector goes to the house, inch by inch, and says, hey, here's all these little items that need attention, and it's going to be a whole list of stuff on here. So as the home inspection comes in, keep in mind, you as the seller, you got your seller hat on. You are the seller in this particular video. You as the seller, you have room to negotiate on these home inspection items. You do not need to go through every single checklist and fix every single thing that's on here. Okay? As a seller, your responsibility is to do the safety items, things that could cause fire, things like the mechanical, things that are structural, things that the inspector comes in and says, here's what's needed. GFIs, water's leaking, shut-off valves, water pressure to the house, some pumps not working. Some of these things, everything's all negotiable. And so you go through this very carefully, and you read the addendums very carefully, word by word, because a lot of time the English language could be confused very quickly. So you got to read the words and how they're stated, the contingency addendums. Okay? So as you go through this, normally they give you 7 to 10 days to try to get these things fixed. And then normally the agent and the buyers usually come through and do a final home inspection item towards the last 2 or 3 days, or if not the last day or the morning of, before the settlement, to make sure all this stuff got addressed and got done. So the thing about doing the home inspection items, okay, you have to keep your receipts. So if you had something in here in your sales contract about a radon test, okay, radon tests are not cheap, okay, and if it fails and you have radon, that's easily a $1,500 expense. Well, who's going to pay for that? Is the buyer paying for that, or are you as the seller paying for that? That's a negotiable item. Termite inspection. So they go out and do a termite inspection. Who's going to pay for that? Is the buyer paying for that, or is the seller paying for that? Now they find termite. Well, what's the result? Who's going to pay for that? So all these things have to be talked through. Okay, so then, now once you get these items, and you could go through line by line, you don't have to, as the seller, fix anything. You could just say, forget it. I'm not doing anything. You take the house as is. Like it or not, that's why we got it priced where it is. Now, if you have it priced and it's kind of remodeled and you're trying to get top dollar for it, and you have money invested in this thing as an investor, you want to get your money out because you got people to pay. You got your hard money lenders, you got your private money lenders, even yourself. You want to get the money out. So getting a contract and getting ready for closing is actually a blessing for investors as well as buyers and sellers. So now you get this, you're going through it, and you decide what you're going to do, what you're not going to do, put it in writing, put everything in writing. In real estate, it has to be in writing. Verbal does not work in real estate. Okay, so once you do that, and then the other thing you're going to have to do is get your payoff amounts, right? So if you have a loan, you have to call the bank and get your payoff letter. What is my current payoff amount for this particular loan? And then get that to the title company, contact the title company that's on record, negotiate with them, talk to them, and then make sure that the particular, if you're a seller in this particular case, the particular buyer has all their stuff together, right? And then also as the seller, you also want to look at the letter that comes in with the contract to show what the buyer's capability is. Is he a strong buyer? Is he or she a strong buyer? Call the bank, verify that the letter, that's the pre-approval letter, is a legitimate letter. Ask for what they call the DU, desktop underwriting. And you could call the loan officer and say, hey, listen, have you done a DU on this particular buyer? They're not going to be able to tell you everything about their credit score and things like that, but they could tell you, look, this guy's a strong buyer. They got X amount of reserves. They could kind of give you enough information to know that either this transaction is going to go through or it's going to flop somewhere in the middle. So you as the seller, you want to find out if this is a strong buyer first. Because if the buyer is not strong and they're not in a position to close, you'd rather walk away from the deal and let that one go and go back on the market, because the last thing you want to do is take a contract from a particular buyer and they've eaten up your time and you've taken off the listing off the market and made it under contract instead of active. Now you're losing other potential buyers. Okay, so make sure that the particular buyer that comes through, all their financing, all their stuff is in line, and do not hesitate to contact the lender that has written the pre-approval letter to verify and validate that it's legitimate. Let's assume everything's great, everything's legitimate, they're ready to rock and roll. The inspection gets done. You guys go through the inspection items. You guys agree to what you're going to do, what you're not going to do. And then you got the payoff amounts. Then you got the, now if you have alarms in the house, things like that. There's a lot of times investors, like myself, we put alarm systems in properties to protect our assets. So what we normally do is we assign the alarm contract over to the buyer. And we should tell the alarm company, hey, once this settlement goes through, we want to make sure that the buyer is going to assume the contract and assume the responsibility for the subscription fee. So miscellaneous things like that, if you have alarm, you may want to consider that. Okay, so once you got the inspection item done, the appraiser came in, the appraiser meets his numbers. You've already negotiated everything with the buyer in terms of seller credit and all this stuff. You've gone through all this process, and now you're itching towards the settlement date. And you want to contact the settlement attorney. You as the seller, you have more control, because you could have the settlement attorney send you the documents, because you're only going to have about 10, 12 pages on your side to sign. The buyer is the one that's going to have a lot of documents to sign. The seller is going to have a very few. You can have them FedEx that to your house, to your office, and sometimes these title companies will have settlement agents that will come out to your location, to your office, and so forth as well. And then you could just sign ahead of time, usually 5-7 days ahead of time, and you can send it back to the title company if you're going out of town or something, and then the buyer comes in, does their thing, and the keys get exchanged, and boom, it's done. So now, you're going to get a HUD-1 from the title company. As you get this HUD-1, you want to go through the HUD-1 extremely carefully, because you want to look at certain line items. You want to look at certain line items to make sure the numbers add up. And you want to go through the real estate commission. You want to go through all the title fees, all the, all these fees to make sure your side versus their side, all the numbers add up and you're getting what you're supposed to be getting and they're getting what they're supposed to be getting. So the title company, the lawyer will go through this and explain this, but you should understand the HUD-1 before going to the title company. And you should always request this at least 48 hours before the settlement in case the payoff amount is off, in case some of the numbers on here don't make sense, in case there's a seller subsidy confusion. You thought you were going to give 6,000 credit, they thought they wanted 8,000. So you have time to kind of get everything fixed before the final date of settlement. Now you go to settlement, everything's gravy, and then you get a check. Okay, so you get a check. I'm not going to show you how much, but anyway, you get a check, and then basically you move on to the next deal or you move on to the next property. But here at Brickfront Properties, Expert Real Estate Advisors Group, we're an investment company. We've been doing this for many years. We have a great track record. Look us up on the internet. We will show you how to negotiate. We will show you how to get ready for the closing. We will walk you through the step process, to make sure you understand and make sure we negotiate throughout the way to make sure you get the best overall deal. And the bottom line is to get paid so we could do it again. Okay? So now, I'm going to put on the buyer's hat. You put the buyer's hat on. So I'm the buyer now in this particular scenario. As the buyer getting prepared to go to closing, as the buyer is getting prepared to go to closing, the buyer is on the HUD-1 is going to be usually on the left side and the seller is going to be on the right side. So for the buyer, you find a house, you get your agent to put a contract on there. Of course, you want the best possible deal. You want to get that seller to pay for every single thing. You want to squeeze him, try to get him to do every single thing that's humanly possible so you can get the best deal as the buyer. So you want to talk to your lender, work on, get your interest rates, get pre-approved, get your stuff together, have your down payment ready, and you know what your buying capacity is. If your buying capacity is $600,000, do not look at $800,000-$900,000 houses. It's not going to work. Stay within your range. Buy right. Buy in the right neighborhood. Buy in an area that's inclining and appreciating rather than declining. Look at the crime, look at the school, look at the demographics, look at public transportation, look at it, see where the grocery stores are. Look at all these things before you decide I'm going to buy here and so forth. Because we look at everything as an investment. And so when you're buying and you're going through getting your appraisal done, of course you want the property to appraise at the highest price possible so you can have maybe some equity. And then when you're having the home inspector go through the house, of course you want to be there so you could walk through the house room by room, item by item, and make sure that everything's tested properly and it works properly and everything, in terms of water pressures and the water heater and the HVAC and all these things are working fine. Now you get out the home inspection item, then you go back to the seller. And then you have this list of all these items that need to be done on the home inspection item. The seller is going to negotiate, so you also have to be firm with what you want and what you need and where the middle point is. And so there's going to be a little bit of give and take and on the home inspection item. So now you have gone through the home inspection items and you're working your way towards the settlement. Your loan officer is going to be asking you for documents throughout the process. Your pay stubs, your tax returns, your income statements. All these things are going to be going through at the same time while the appraisal is happening. The appraisal is going to come in. The termite inspection report is going to come in. The radon test is going to come in. All these things, now you got to start making decisions on these items to get ready to go to closing as the buyer. Okay? You got to make sure you got your earnest money deposit and make sure there's money in the bank. The check's going to be cashed. You got to make sure if you're getting a letter from grandma or a friend or a gift letter that you have all these funds lined up and ready to go, because when it comes down to it and you don't close because of financing, whatever, you're going to lose your earnest money deposit. You will most likely lose your earnest money deposit. So here at Expert Real Estate Advisors Group and Brickfront Properties, we know the cycle, we know the transactions, we know where there's wiggle room and where there's not wiggle room. If you guys are looking for somebody to help you negotiate and buy, give us a call, we can help you. If you are a seller and you're looking for somebody to come in and help you sell your property, if it's rehabbed or renovated, or even if it's just a regular listing and it needs curb appeal. Brickfront Properties, we're a construction company, we're an investment company. We could possibly joint venture with you guys and help you do some of the curb appeal around the house. You might have a wonderful house, wonderful asset in a great neighborhood, but you just don't have the funds to necessarily do the right touch-up to maybe get the higher price. Okay, so there's a possibility that Brickfront Properties, we could partner up with you guys and get that asset looking great and getting it to a higher dollar price where you guys make more money and then I'll get to make more money. So anyway, give us a call, Brickfront Properties, Expert Real Estate Advisors Group. We're going to show you guys how to get prepared for the closing and you have a smooth transaction. Thank you very much. Hey, give us a feedback on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Follow us, like us, comment us. Tell us if you guys are getting some good content. If you guys like what you're hearing, give us recommendations, give us suggestions. We want to hear from you guys. So these classes we're going to be doing are free. We're providing content to educate you guys. Pass the information along. If there's something that you don't agree with, let us know. Okay, so we're not perfect, but we know what we know, we do what we do, and we want to help you guys overcome some of these objectives. Thank you very much. Sid Hameed, Brickfront Properties, Expert Real Estate Advisors Group. Take care.